Not all wins are equal, not all losses are equal, but at the end of the day, just finding a way to get to 11-1 gets you in the college football playoff. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. No Dave Shoemate, just Cole Thompson, but we are breaking down everything that we saw out at DKR 31-14 victory. The Horns improved to 10-1 on the year. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, because this is your number one source for all things SEC, and make sure you smash the subscribe button so that way you keep up to date with Dave Talk Ball, the Sunday Fun Day, the Monday Morning Power Hour, live reactions, post-game analysis, much, much more right here on SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure you follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This post-game show is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Look good, feel good this holiday season at RHOBACK.com. When you use the promo code SECU, you get a 20% off your first purchase. So whether that be for joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts, make sure that you give the perfect holiday gift to somebody in your life with RHOBACK.com. Use the promo code SECU. Texas 31, Kentucky 14. At the start of the year, I remember actually circling this game because I remember the people saying that this would be a matchup they should own. And you know what? You get a mature win. You get a successful win. But the bottom line is that the grind of the SEC completely differs from what you saw in the Big 12. And this was a game to where when you wake up on a Sunday morning, realizing that you're getting prepared to have to go take on Texas A&M, your body's going to be hurting a little bit more. You're going to be feeling a little bit more of that lackadaisical. You're going to be feeling the bumps and bruises, but it makes you mentally and physically tougher. And to be fair, Texas also adds value in that because they are a tough team. I also said this past week that I want to see Texas get some style points. I want to see Texas find a way to up the ante to leave no doubt that they were one of the 12 best teams in the college football playoff race. And I got a lot of pushback. People were saying, we don't need style points. We just need to go out there and win. No, you do. Of course you got to just go out there and win. You beat Kentucky. You beat Texas A&M. You're in the college football playoff because you're going to be in the SEC championship. And they won't leave out an 11-2 Texas. They may not even leave out a 10-2 Texas. But it's proving that you can be consistent. It's proving that your defense can deliver at times. It's proving that your offense can take that next step forward. A lot of people, I think, are underlying how good this defense is because of their paying too much attention to the offense. Once again, 2 turnovers on the day. They forced Kentucky to have to go to their freshman quarterback and Cutter Boley. They also were able to hold them to less than 300 yards of offense, less than 250 yards of offense. You tell me that that's not style points? You're out of your mind. That's not style points. That shows you that even on a day where it does feel like it's a little bit too close, it really isn't. Sometimes stats will lie to you and sometimes they stare you right in the face. Texas absolutely dominated defensively, and they have all year. It has been the backbone of this team, and they're getting better. They're forcing turnovers. They're playing mature. They're not allowing big-time mistakes. And outside of that roughing the passer call late in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left on the board, there's not much to complain about. You saw a mature win by Pete Kwiatkowski and Johnny Nanson's unit that is going to carry that weight when they get into the playoffs. Now, the question is, what happens if your defense isn't able to deliver? You got to trust your offense. And for the most part, I think that Quinn Ewers is Quinn Ewers. We've talked about this multiple times. You are not going to see it change. Listen, if you have a dog and the dog after 13 years doesn't know how to sit, it's not going to sit right because it's on its deathbed. That's just the bottom line, people. It is what it is. That's Quinn Ewers. You're asking him to take those deep shots down the field. You're asking to be better with the vertical attack. He's not going to do that. And it's foolish to think that in week 13, that's going to change overnight. But what he is going to do is he's going to keep the ball in motion, 20 of 31, 191 yards passing. He's also going to add a little bit more value with his legs. He's also going to have a high tempo completion percentage. And as long as there's not a turnover involved, that might be good enough to win the football game if your offense can continue to hump. That includes the rushing attack. How about Quinn Wisner? Over 150 rushing yards, big time touchdown late in the fourth quarter to be able to kind of pull away, averaging 5.3 yards per play on the ground, trusting that you have Jarrett Gibson to add some value as that freshman. Also, Jaden Blue. We'll talk about some of the problems in a minute. But that's what you see from this Texas team. And people wonder, well, why are they a top 12 roster? Because of that. Because of that. The maturity of the defense, the ability to keep plays moving, the offensive, even though inconsistencies aren't a hindrance, and they have the right personnel to get the job done on any given Saturday. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some cause for concern. Naturally, there are. Jaden Blue, fumble issue. We talked about it after the Mississippi State game. It was bad. Very, very bad. Questionable decision. Had 2 fumbles today. One, he was very lucky, got into the end zone with. The other one, ball landed right in the arms of Deion Walker. What more can you say? That's basically all. Basically all that she wrote. Also, you have some fumbling issues when it comes to the other players. Also, special teams is a little bit concerning. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. That is the one weakness to where you are not hoping that you need a game-winning field goal from Burt Auburn to be able to guarantee your spot in the national championship. It's a little concerning. The punting is a little bit concerning. The special teams when it comes to punt return. Silas Bolden nearly muffed a punt and nearly gave the ball back deep in their own territory. That's a bit concerning. That doesn't mean that they're not a perfect team. Nobody in college football is. In fact, I think today, after watching what happened down in Gainesville, it's very clear not only can anybody lose on a Saturday, more importantly, there isn't a perfect team in college football. The ragtag story of Indiana, that lasted for about a quarter, and here we are now wondering how far are they going to drop and do they belong in the playoff? Meanwhile, anybody else watch what was going on in Minneapolis? The easiest betting line of the day was always going to be Minnesota at plus 11. They won by a point. There are no perfect teams. And you've watched as Oregon had its faults. So I don't want to say for Texas fans, you have to go ahead and show out. You got style. Style is showing that even when the game feels close, it actually isn't. Style is showing that there is a consistency when it comes to delivering on defense. Style is proving that you aren't putting yourself in harm's way. And are there problems? Yes. But do you really feel like that there are 12 teams better than Texas with the eye test? That is the final step. There are 4 things that I look for when it comes to deciding on who belongs in the playoff: resume, victory, point of victory, margin of error, and eye test. They passed the resume. They passed the eye test. They have 50% of the job done. Now they have to continue it. Now let's talk about Kentucky real fast. Kentucky, they're not going to a bowl game this year. They're one of the more disappointing teams in the SEC. I thought they would be the surprise, at least make things interesting, and probably they could have if they maybe decided to go to Cutter Bully early. 3 of 7 from Brock Vandagriff, 1 touchdown pass, 1 interception, and they couldn't get the ball rolling on the ground. -7 rushing yards. -7. You're not winning a football game like that with a quarterback. So what do? You finally say it's time to let the young gun loose. And there's a lot of hope out in Lexington. If you talk to anybody around the program, they believe that Cutter Bully can be something special. And he showed you at times today. Deep shots down the field, Barry Brown, Dane Key, Willie Rodriguez, Jamori Macklin with the big 42-yard pickup. They showed you that there is at least something brewing with this kid. Unfortunately, too little, too late. Now you just got to go into next week's matchup against Louisville and hope to God that you're able to pull off the upset and ruin their season. And maybe at that point, at least you feel better about your direction. But 4-8 was not the year that people expected. Many had this as a wild card team that could show up. And I'll give them credit. They fought. You go back and you look at this team in the third quarter, at least to make it interesting, going deep into the fourth quarter, they fought. But that's where you look back at Texas and say, hey, is this a top 12 team? Yep. And you played well against top 12 team in Ole Miss, and you won. And you played well against top 12 team against Georgia, and you lost. And you played against top 12 team against Texas, same story. That's just it. Sometimes the better talent comes out on top. That's Texas right now. But there are going to be some questions that you have out in Lexington. There are. Is it time to move off of Mark Stoops? Probably not. They probably will bring him back for another year. They have to have a guy in mind, and I don't think that the person that many people believe would be the heir apparent is ready to leave New Orleans just yet, not in the middle of a potential college football playoff run. I don't think that he is going to take the job, knowing what's at stake and knowing what the SEC is. But you got to make some changes. Maybe it comes with a new offensive coordinator. Maybe it comes by adding in more pieces in the transfer portal. But you are going to lose talent. A lot of it on the defensive side. You're not going to have Deion Walker next year. That's a first-round pick, top 20 selection. You're not going to have JDJ next year. That's a top 50 selection. You're going to miss some players in the secondary. So you got to add in, and you got to attack. And you got to be able to find something that works alongside Cutter Bully. You have to. That is your bread and butter moving forward. And if it is eventually going to be, hey, unfortunately, things just aren't working out. Here we are once again going 5-7 after all the success. The best thing at times is to part ways. Nobody is saying that you have to hold out hope for a guy to finally turn back the corner. You had some good years. You did. And I believe that when you look back at the history of, again, Kentucky football, Mark Stoops is a walking, living, breathing legend. He's done everything possible. He's taken the program to its peak at 10 wins. But sometimes change is inevitable. And it's best for you to kind of move off of that to allow something else positive to come on in. That's the case with Mark Stoops at this point. He's a good dude. He's a guy that can coach his ass off. He's a guy that I think could absolutely still have work in this industry, but maybe it's time to consider other locations. If the Iowa job were to ever open up, I fully am convinced that he would take it, run, and never look back. And also, I think it's time to start wondering what this team goes with. But again, Texas gets a dominant win. More importantly, Texas shows you who they truly are. A physical force machine that is able to withstand anything. And they didn't overlook this game. It would have been easy for them to be able to do that. You get 11 tackles for losses, 6 sacks on the day. You hold this team to under 250 yards of offense. Once again, why are we not talking more about Texas in that standpoint? Everyone wants to focus in on the offense and the inability of Quinn Ewers. Meanwhile, the defense is holding down the fort and making sure that there is no doubt left behind. And they'll carry that into College Station next week for the Lone Star Showdown, a game that has been near and dear to my heart and near and dear to most of y'all's hearts too. It's a matchup that we have been waiting for, and it's one that has a lot on the line. It could have even more on the line depending on what happens tonight with Auburn and Alabama. Auburn and Texas A&M out in Georgia. Jordan Hare. It could easily have that. But at the same time, you got to go back and look at the resume and the eye test. What does the eye test tell you? Is that not a top 12 team? Defensively, yes. Offensively, when it's clicking, yes. Special teams, probably not. Coaching, yes. Personnel, yes. So why are we leaving them out of the college football playoff? If they show up next week against Texas A&M, if they're able to continue this type of success, not overlook and start planning on the trip to Atlanta, what they're going to have at Cookout, what they're going to do at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, none of that. They're just paying attention to College Station at Kyle Field, the place that the last time they got a game-winning field goal and bragging rights for over a decade. If they carry that momentum in, it's going to be very hard-pressed to say that they are not only deserving, but they are clearly the favorites in the SEC. And as for Kentucky, it's up to you to decide what you want to be. But you're going to have to start to get your collective involved. You're going to have to start spending a little bit more money. You're going to have to start putting yourself in a prime position. And you're going to have to make some big-time moves. And I just don't know if a Kentucky school is like that. I don't. It's known for basketball. Baseball has turned the corner. Maybe they're okay with 8-4. And Mark Stoops is fine with it. But at the same time, when you're getting paid over $9 million, over $7 million, you probably got to get a little bit better results than just 7-5 and maybe a bowl bid. This year, you're going potentially 4-8. But let me know in the comment section down below, what were your thoughts on this game? What are your thoughts on Texas moving forward? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that ring notification. Here's the reason why you want to hit that ring notification. Because if I'm going to be back live, Dave Shoemate probably is going to be joining us. I'll tell you the secret real fast before we get on out of here. Dave hurt his back working out today, and he is on the IR. Sometimes you got to do a show solo. Sometimes you got to step up and be the reliever. Sometimes you got to do a one-man monologue, and hopefully people still tune in. But Dave is probably going to be back later. We're going to break down Oklahoma versus Alabama. We're going to break down Auburn versus Texas A&M. So make sure you hit that ring notification. That way you're able to stick up and stay watching live. Texas, 31. Kentucky, 14. Guys, we're 7 days away from the Lone Star Showdown being back. Peace.